Hey, what do you say? How you guys doing? Yeah, there you go. And this one's me. So, welcome to the Week 5 edition of the Dolphins Dive Bar, Dolphins Review. Miami, with the home win today, beat the New York Football Giants 31-16. Get a 15-point victory. Fins cover the 12.5-point spread, depending on what book that you were looking at. Fins 4-1, back atop where they rightfully belong in the AFC East because Buffalo goes down in London town in the Jacksonville game. Like I said, Dolphins improved to 4-1. The Giants fall to 1-4. Now, we have an old-fashioned, by the way. You know, you play an old-fashioned team like one of the OG football teams, you have to have an old-fashioned, right? And this was weird. This was one of those weird Dolphin games for me where, even though they won, which obviously is the most important thing, it's the only thing that really matters is that they get the win. But I just had that weird feeling of, flat, you know? I feel that the Dolphins, it's like they almost didn't learn from the mistakes that they were making against Buffalo. It was still, a very sloppy football game in parts on the offense and on the defense. And that's 2 weeks in a row, you know, and I shouldn't be able to say that though. You have to focus on the positives. He's yeah, we had some negatives that happened in that game, some boneheaded moves, but you know, the offense still put up numbers like you wouldn't believe. I mean, you're talking about a team that had 36 first downs and 524 total yards. You have a running back and a wide receiver in Achan and Cheetah that have over 150 yards in their respective positions. You know, Tua on the day, he goes 22 for 30 with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, 1 sack. I mean, let's be a little honest with those stats. I mean, it kind of felt a little ho-hum from him just because of a few of his decisions. I mean, Tyreek has an insane running catch where he cuts across field, and he turns it up, almost brings it to the house. But, you know, cheetahs, they can only sprint for a certain amount of ground before they get tired. They have to start panting in the corner. And Cheetah got tired, man. He got chased down, and he couldn't pick up the touchdown on that one. And then a couple of plays later, what happens? Tua with just the most boneheaded, boneheaded play of the game, one of them, where he just throws in the triple coverage, and it's a pick six. Goes back 102 yards, which is funny because the New York Football Giants haven't scored an offensive touchdown in the first half at all this season. The first touchdown they get in the first half belongs to the defense with a pick six, you know? And then Tua made another kind of dumb throw where he was trying to throw again to Cheetah, on the right side of the field or whatever, but it's triple coverage, you know? And it's dude, what are we doing? And then he comes back and gets another interception where he just sails it right over Waddle's head, right into the arms of the linebacker. So this was one of those games from Tua where it's you did awesome, because, you know, you did 308 and 2 touchdowns, but you got, you're still making these throws. Because it's every game that he plays, there's always a couple of throws that it's man, that should have been picked. We got lucky that guy had Butterfingers. Or dang, where the heck is he throwing it to? So, once he can start to mitigate those better, I mean, the sky should be the limit, right? But a couple of bonehead plays, I mean, that the Dolphins are good for, that he's good for every game. So, Achan, again, I mean, this kid is balling out, man. He should be on the short list of Rookie of the Year right now. I mean, seriously, the guy's got 7-8 touchdowns in his first few games, his first 5 games of the season. I mean, he carried the ball 11 times, got 151 rushing yards and a touchdown, breaking out long runs all game. That 76-yarder took it to the house. I mean, the drive before, he fumbles it. Does he let it bother him? No. He friggin' comes through the next play. One Giant barely gets a hand on his shoulder, and then boom, turns the corner, takes the angle, houses it for 76 yards. So he makes up for it for his bad drive the drive before, and he shrugs it off the adversity, and he comes through and he's scoring big touchdowns. I mean, this kid he's really a treat to watch, especially with all the offseason talk about, the Dolphins need another running back, another featured back. They need to get Dalvin Cook. They're not going to get Dalvin Cook. They need to trade for the guy that plays for the Colts. Like, they got to get better at that position. Well, no, I think they got it, like that 1-2 combination of him and Mostert. Mostert had 10 carries for 65 yards, a touchdown, and he broke out a long one for 23. The only downside of the running game was that each back had a fumble. I mean, Mostert's landed out of bounds, fortunately, but Achane, his fumble led to a direct turnover, gave the Giants a short field to work with. But the defense held them down. We'll get to those guys, man. Props to the offensive line, because once again, these guys come through in these situations. I mean, yeah, sure, the Giants' defensive line's nothing to write home about. But, you play the team that's there in front of you, right? And that O-line, Tua gets sacked one time. They're opening up holes for the run. Miami might not, use the most traditional running attack of, one cut and go. They really love to use the outside, those zone runs, and bounce to the outside. But even when they do run inside the gaps, I mean, that O-line made holes today that, I mean, come on, with the touchdown that Achane had, he didn't even have to make a cut until he got to the outside to beat the safety on the angle, because that line opened up, a friggin' wormhole for him to run through. And they deserve all credit for that, because, he can't fumble the ball if he's not getting touched, right? And he ain't getting touched because the O-line's doing their job. I mean, didn't miss Teron Armstead at all this week. Fortunately, Connor Williams came back, and you didn't even hear his name other than to say that he was back. Like, that's the marker of a successful day on the O-line, is when you don't hear about him. Well, you're hearing about him now because you got to give these guys props, man. They did awesome. Sticking with the stats, our boy Cheetah, the wide receiving core today. Cheetah had 8 catches for $181 and a long touchdown. 69-yard touchdown, the first drive of the second half. It was like 2 plays before, I think it was when Tua tried to throw it in the triple coverage. And then on third down, or I think it was third down, they just find my man wide open down the side. Easy touchdown, easy catch and run touchdown. Waddle showed up today. He got his first touchdown of the season, gets 5 catches, only 35 yards, but he gets the touchdown. Celebration was cool. You take the football, you wind him up, and then the Cheetah. I don't have his Funko Pop, but got a Waddle with it. I'll get it eventually. We'll see. And it was even cool to see Cedric Wilson get a little shine today. He caught 4 passes for 52 yards. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how the team lines up coming in the future when Claypool gets on the field. My guess is that Robbie will be chosen to go to the practice squad. Defense showed out as they should have, right? Giants' offense was abysmal, Dolphins get 7 sacks. Should have been 8, but Van Ginkel's sack was taken away by a penalty on X-Man. I mean, I didn't even see the call. It's probably so ticky-tack. But that was like the only... one of those negatives was kind of like a microcosm of the frustrations in the game of, extending drives with penalties. Because, you get a big third down sack, and then you get a flag, which is 5 yards and a free first down. And the defense, they don't force any turnovers today on a team that, does turn the ball over. But, they allowed no touchdowns either. It's like we said, the only touchdown for the Giants was a pick 6. So the Dolphins' defense held the Giants to 3 field goals. Even when Achane's fumble gave him the ball, or I'm sorry, when Tua's interception gave him the ball, practically in the red zone, at the 25 or something. and defense just holds tough and forces a field goal. So yeah, this is the get back game that you wanted to see, because people are getting involved. Christian Wilkins is getting involved. He got a sack. A bunch of people got half a sack or a sack in there to get that total to 7. So you want to see the defense play this way against the Giants, and you want to see them assert their will against Carolina too, and then in preparation for the game that we have coming up against the Eagles in like 2 weeks. And I like how in the second half the Dolphins offense was able to like grind down the Giants, because it's hot, they're on the field, they're getting ran all over, and you can see those guys are just like taking giant deep breaths, just huffing and puffing, can't get their packages in. I mean, that's the way you want to win football in Miami, especially in like the fall months, if you will, right? Now, with the Dolphins offense, you always hear this comparison now to the St. Louis Rams at the time. But that offense, the greatest show on turf, was like such an air raid offense. And the beauty of Miami is that like literally they're finally living up to the lyrics of that fight song, like in the air, on the ground, always in control. Because yeah, you could see Tyreek over the top for 69 yards. And you could see Achan 76-yard touchdown runs. Like, this team can run the ball now. This scheme, the way they find holes and the way they use speed to bounce outside, or even like using some of the reverses that are working a little more, they're finding gaps and just matchups, with receivers blocking cornerbacks, and they're exploding for huge yards on the ground, which is something that the Dolphins just never really did, you have to go back to, like, Jay Ajayi's season where he's getting, like, 300 yards in a game on multiple occasions. You got to go back to the Ronnie Brown years and the Ricky Williams years where they could, like, really run the football down your throat. And this season, I mean, it's such a perfect complement to the passing game that even though I know they run everything like out of the pistol and out of the shotgun mostly, but still, you're going to get so many defenders to start biting down when you have a running back that was averaging, or when you had running backs that was averaging 9.7 yards a clip. I mean, literally, every time the Dolphins touch the football on the run game this game, it's practically a first down. I mean, it's an inches and inches to go play because you're just busting out so many huge runs. So once you start taking advantage of that and the play actions and going up top and all these little wacky routes that McDaniel likes to have these guys run, I mean, the points are just going to continue to pile up. Players of the game, game balls. I mean, offense, I hate to like cop out, take the easy way out with this one. I want to give it to both Achan and Tyreek Hill, because the Dolphins got the lead, and after Tua threw that second interception, like, they really wanted to just grind it out and run the football, right? They didn't really need to throw it anymore. You already had a 2-score lead. You can just grind them. You can just run the ball. And Tyreek Hill, with the 181 yards that he had, if you didn't do that, you could have fed him for the rest of that game, no problem. He could have had over 200 yards, but they reined it in a little bit. So I have to give the ball to both Hill and Achan. Hill, you can keep this one. And I know you gave the one to your mother earlier, or the one guy who the Dolphins actually need to get on the defense. Intercepted that one in the stands, but then, after Hill's mom yelled at him and security was tapping him and the fans like, hey, give the guy the ball, he turned it over to the proper authority of the ball. But 2 players, a running back and a wide receiver, getting over 150 yards, 150 plus, those are your players of the game, because, man, those guys are just showing up so consistently all season. It's a beautiful thing to see. It really is. And then on defense, I want to give a game ball to Zach Sealer. I was going through that thing of, do I give it to Van Ginkel again? Because, I mean, that dude's just balling out. But, I mean, Sealer, 7 tackles, 2 sacks. He was a menace all game to that Giants line. And he was getting in there. He had 6 solo tackles and a couple tackles for loss as well. So he really showed up. Christian Wilkins showed up, finally getting a little sack action. The blitz looked good. Sure, it's against lower competition, but you have to make it work against lower competition too, right? It's got to be automatic against them, so you can get those spurts when you're playing, the teams with the better trenches. So what's next on the docket? Dolphins in Miami at Hard Rock, 1 o'clock game. The 0-5 Carolina Panthers are coming into town. Now, you don't want this to be a trap game, a team that you should be able to dominate completely. But you have to play like that. You have to play like you can dominate them completely. And you got to beat them up because, this is going to be another tuner for the big Sunday Night Football shot against the Eagles. So you really want to go into things at a 5-1 score. But let's see how Miami is able to rebound. Let's see how they clean up those things that weren't going good for them, that really kicked them in the butt in Buffalo, and then, still making some of the same mistakes in this game against the Giants in the lower competition. You really want to see them clean that stuff up against Carolina and then be set for the future, right? All right, well, we finished our drink, so we're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank you for coming by, stopping by the dive bar. And, we'll be here next week after Miami takes on the Carolina Panthers at home. Thanks for stopping by.